Good evening, everyone. We are live here with our webinar mentor for the Designathon Hackathon, which HYSEA is organizing for around 50 colleges across Telangana, where we have already got around 2,500 participants. Now we have our mentor with us, Mr. Shyam, who is from Opentext, and Mr. Sesha, the moderator for the webinar to be held today. I would hand it over to Mr. Sesha and ask him to, go with the flow. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, Mr. Sesha, can you?
Okay, good evening, friends. It's a pleasure to host this webinar for all of you. This webinar is sponsored by HYSEA, and the CPU, the College Placement Umbrella, is organizing the logistics and trying to reach all of you to help you with product submissions for all the Telangana colleges and specifically lots from JNTU colleges. So we have a great UI UX expert. We'll turn it over to him very shortly, but I would like to say a few words about the hackathon in particular and design in general. So let's talk about design. What is design? Before I say that, we all know that life has a purpose, right? The human life. We all have to know what is the purpose of our life. In the same way, when you develop some product, whatever you do in your life, that should have a purpose. And in the same way, when you develop your product, the product should have a purpose. So, what does it mean? It means that if you are developing something, you should know why you are developing, what purpose does it serve, and who is it for. Right? These are the very fundamental questions you need to ask yourself before you start developing a product. And the first part of that is design. So design defines the purpose of your product. So that way, if you want to be successful in your career, everything that you should do, you will start with the design, which means you should keep in mind your audience, your customer. So those are the few words I would like. Those are the few thoughts I would like to leave with you, and then we will, as we go over, I'll be saying a few things that come to my mind that are relevant for the hackathon. But I know that you're all waiting for to listen to Shyam, the UI UX expert. I know you're all waiting for him eagerly. So I would like to turn it over to him and request him to educate all of us. What is design? What is thinking? What is the purpose? How should you think from the customer point of view? And how do you make your product purposeful and useful? So those are my few words. Shyam, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Sesha. Thank you so much. It was a great introduction, actually, and Rajit also. Thank you for initiating this hackathon and setting up everything that is required. So good evening, everybody. I'm sure it is a very good way to address you as friends. But I would take the liberty to address you as the future leaders, the leaders in the making right now. So welcome everybody. It's actually a great pleasure to be on this show and do a presentation for HYSEA, and especially for the students who are going to make their careers forward. So thank you so much. So with that little note, let's get started today. So let me share my screen and please confirm when you're able to see my screen. So that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we can see.
Give me a thumbs up if you're able to see my screen. Okay, great. So we already had a little bit of introduction, so I can just skip this slide. So, today, as Mr. Sesha already asked you the question in brief, what is design and where do you see it? right? So to me, design appears everywhere, right? So maybe if you're sitting in a room, if you're sitting in a, if you're actually sitting on a desk, look at the things around you, right? Maybe the stuff on your desk, maybe stuff that are actually displayed on your walls, your computer, your wall clock, for that example, maybe this chair that you're sitting on. All these, all these are products today, but maybe sometime for sure, all these products were actually in the making, right? So these are all prototypes at some point of time, and now these have become the actual physical products or material that you're actually currently using. In that case, uh, the live stream that we are currently watching through YouTube today, don't you think that was once a prototype? Don't you think that was like somebody has envisioned this kind of a thing that okay, we should be able to uh, make videos and people should be able to make videos and publish them online, and then going even forward, why not just make passive videos and share them online later? Why not even do live stream, right? So this is a thought that somebody had long time back, and now we see it in reality, right? So design is not what you actually do it like draw or sketch or do a design in a computer. Design is actually everywhere. Every object that you see, it has a design. I mean, it is actually a design. That is an interface that you're actually interacting with, right? So you, no matter where you're seeing, everywhere you would see design. So with that thing, let's see what's coming up next. So on this slide, so if you look at this thing, right? So everything that exists today is actually an early design concept for tomorrow, right? So you must have heard that Alexander Graham Bell actually invented the telephone. So where did this telephone actually come in from, right? So there was long years back, people used to travel a long distance to communicate, to actually communicate a message, right? So somebody got this thought, okay, why what is it that we can do to help people to make the communication faster, right? Maybe they could send the message across faster. So, so the first phone which looked like this is actually invented. And then once it was invented, it became a product. Everybody liked it so much. Oh, wow, that was an amazing invention, right? And then people realized that, okay, this is good. As I'm using it, it is actually great. But then the more the more you use it, the problems that you identify, right? It has two different pieces. So I'll have to hold something on my ear, and I'll have to put my actually put my face closer to the microphone and talk into that. Then somebody thought about it. Okay, can we redo this design? Right? Then they came up with a phone which had a cradle, which had an earpiece and the microphone connected to the same cradle, right? And then they said, okay, that's a pretty heavy stuff, and humans are mobile, and humans are very interactive. I cannot just sit at one place and talk. So can you make it lighter? Right? Can you make it something even more, something that okay, lighter? So then this model came in, and then they then said, okay, fine, that's a great thing. Now it's like, okay, now what happens is I would like to hot dial some numbers. I would like to feed some numbers on my phone. So can you do me something that I just have few numbers that I frequently dial, and I don't want to dial them every time or dial the ring. So then this model came in, right? And then said, okay, this is still a thing now. Now I'm very animated. I walk around. This cable gets into my feet. I get tangled on my cables, right? And then what happened? Then again, somebody again thought, okay, let's make a wireless phone. So this came in, right? People were so happy, and now I can go around and talk, and people started using for business, for casual talks, for personal talks, and then they realized that okay, this phone only has a very small area of coverage. I mean, you can just cover like 100 meters of your distance. Now I'm able to talk. I'm able to walk my talk. So um, so in that case, how isn't it possible that I would want a device which I can just put it in my pocket, take it everywhere that I go, right? So that was the invention of your first mobile phone, right? the mobile phone came in. People were very happy. And after that, what happened is, okay, I'm able to key in my numbers. I'm able to store my numbers. In addition to that, I'm even able to send text messages, right? So text messages was a great thing, which was not possible in any of these phones, right? They said, okay, I'm able to send text messages. Would it be possible to see people, right? Isn't that a great thought? I would like to see people when I'm talking to them, so that I can look at I can look at their facial expressions. I can express my facial expressions to them. So then came in a smartphone, right? Then people said that okay, the smartphone is amazing. It is still amazing. We still use a lot of smartphones right now. Then the problem again came in is what? Okay, every time I'll have to take it out from my pocket. Can I not have something that I can just, okay, if there's some call, I can just look at it, and if I have to do something, okay, I just tap on my watch and do this. This is a smartphone. It actually did not replace the entire smartphone, and neither the smartphone replaced this, but these are all gradual improvements to the existing design, right? So if you look at the history back, now all these that existed a few years back were actually design concepts which gave life to the future models that came in. And then once after the watch came, then people are now saying, okay, I have too many devices on me, right? I have a smartphone, I have a mobile, I have maybe some people two mobiles with them, and is it not possible that something can be done to integrate all these phones? I actually went out to a mobile store very recently. I was trying to buy some accessories, and there was a customer who was standing there, and he asked, "Okay, I'm actually carrying three phones with me. Is there a pouch that can accommodate all these three phones into one?" Right? So these kind of thoughts, these are the things, these are the problem areas that could lead us to the future innovations. Right? Now the gloves that you see here, right? This is just a very, I'm not even sure if there's somebody working around it, but there are pictures on the internet about a glove having a phone. And do you remember? I mean, in our early days, or even when we look at some people right now, they actually count numbers on their fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, uh, *0# right? So they count numbers. So why not put the numbers on your fingers, right? And then you have a screen on your palm on the gloves, and that screen is not visible. Only when you just open a tool, that screen comes up. And these are all design concepts that are in the making right now. But where did this all originate? It all originated from this basic inventions. So for me, what I think is everything that has had to be invented has been invented. Now, what we are doing is only innovations. We are reproducing what was there, giving it a new form. We're giving it a new form factor. We are giving it a new shape. We are solving new problems, and we are putting up new purposes. Right. So this is what we say, that okay, everything that exists today is actually an early design concept for tomorrow. Right. So now we have understood like a little thing about the design concepts and products and stuff like that. Now let's look at some literally the 10 fundamentals that every designer should be well versed with, and should actually very very well know about these 10 fundamentals. So these are actually divided into two sections. So the first one that I would like to show you, the 6 elements of design, right? So when we look at the 6 elements of design, so what you can get to see is space, size, shape, line, color, and value. Space is the area between elements, uh, you know, which could actually separate or group information, right? And then size in design is used to attract attention, like color, uh, the color is also used to attract attention, and it is it is also used to define importance and create visual interest. Right? If you put some object on the screen which is in a bigger size, that indicates that it is more prominent and it is more important. Right? Similarly, like shape. So if you notice, most of the objects that you can currently see are either squares or rectangles, cubes, or cuboids. Few of the objects that you could see are in triangles and circles, right? Most of the objects that we create is by combining and transforming these three basic shapes, through which we could create many other shapes. So whole of the art, or whole of the if you look at some icons or some metaphors that you can see on the screen, or any other digital screen, or any other object that you can see, is actually a combination of these three basic shapes. Now, when we look at lines, right? So line is a mark between 2 points, and I don't think I have to explain it to you better, to all your engineers, right? So, and in that case, line can also be used for a wide range of purposes to connect content to one another, right? And then creating patterns and more, right? So, is there a way that I could minimize this one? Yeah, I think this is much better. I'd like to see the screen. Okay. Then when you look at color, so color is used to generate emotions, the same as the size-like thing, and define importance and create visual interest. Right? Now, value. So you must have heard about value in different contexts and different meaning. But an art value is actually to create the depth. Right? So in design, value is a great way to create depth. Value is used to visualize how light or how dark an area could look like based on the direction and intensity of the light. So if you actually look at some art illustrations, right, there must be some shadows, there must be some darker pencil sketches. So that is an illustration of the depth. So if you have to take this 2D shape and model into a 3D shape, you have to put in depth there, and that depth comes in from value, right? So even if you look at this gradient, right? So you can look that the light can penetrate only until here, and then it loses in density, and by the end, there's no light. So that is how value is used in design, right? So the next fourth stuff is principles of design, right? So so this is also called as in a funny way, we call it crap. Like in our regular conversations, we call it as crap because it is contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. Right. So contrast, unique elements of design should stand apart from one another. One way to do that is to use a good contrast, which can be achieved by using elements like color, shape, direction, and many more uh, visual stuff that you could do to create contrast. Right. And then when you look at repetition, so you must have looked at something like on your web pages. So repetition is quite common because repetition is a pattern, right? So your repetition leads cohesiveness in design. And once a design pattern is established, repeat the same pattern to establish consistency, right? So if you now alignment is the key thing. It is not just for such an amazing thing, right? So proper alignment in design means that every element is visually connected. Nothing falls out of place when alignment has been handled well, right? And then the last thing is proximity, right? If you have similar objects and they are placed close to each other, that is the principle of proximity. They themselves could create a new shape or a new pattern when similar objects are placed together. So proximity allows visual unity in design. If two or more elements are related to each other, they should be displayed in close proximity to one another. So these things. So four principles of design, which is contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. And then if we go one slide back, space, size, shape, line, and color. So these are the fundamentals. So if you call yourself as a designer, or if you do something which is related to design, these are the 10 fundamentals that you should always bear in mind. Maybe over a period of time, This could even become your not just memorized in your brain, but it could even become your muscle memory, your second nature actually. Right? So we've looked at this 10 fundamentals. Now let's look at just a couple of examples that I grabbed some screenshots just a couple of days ago, and look at the differences that you can see. Now, the fundamentals that I just talked about. So each of this design has applied those fundamentals, but there's something. What happened is they did not apply those fundamentals correctly. Now, if you talk about contrast, right? So here there's a huge contrast, right? So the Lantern Day, which was celebrated in Singapore or in many other Southeast Asian countries. So this was a background that the system has actually put, maybe based on, so this is artificial intelligence sometimes, or maybe some kind of patterns that they bring in and based on what happens, right? So with this, what really happened is my search box on Bing, that is the Microsoft website, is kind of lost. So this whole thing takes up a lot of visual space, right? And then alignment, if you look at it, if you look at the alignment, then if you actually look at it closer, right? This element in the top left corner and this one is properly aligned, right? And this one is properly aligned as well. And this white stuff is aligned here. But this whole big image is actually creating contrast. There's too much of contrast here. Now compare it with Google, your Google search page, which is everything. Okay, now Google has become even a synonym for search, and now actually, if you go talk to youngsters out, they don't even call search. They look a little puzzled if I say the keyword search. They say, okay, let's Google it, right? So that is how they have gone to the extremes of branding. Now, look at so much of negative space. So negative space is actually not the actual meaning of negative. Negative space, which means that okay, there's too much. There's good enough of breathing space, good enough of white space, which will actually let users focus on the actual content or the actual interactive stuff that they actually focus on, right? And then look at the contrast here. They have the image here, they have the Google branding, and the only thing that you can prominently see is the input text box. And then the contrast here is the sign in button. So you'll have to sign in to use Google. I mean, you don't have to actually sign in, but if you sign in, it'll actually give you more suggested results and it'll actually identify what you could do. So these are two search engines, right? And now let's look at a couple of travel websites. So on the left that you can see is Make My Trip, and on the right is Clear Trip. Now here, if you look at it, Reputation is amazingly used here, but size has gone for a toss, right? So if you look at this panel here, now each of this element has the same pattern. It has an image and it has a heading and it has some text here. It has a hyperlink that you could click on. Same here, image, text, headline text, some descriptive text, and a clickable link. Same here, right? And these are all like maybe something like quick links. So you just have an image, and so. But here, what has happened is now everything looks so monotonous, right? So this is a big rectangle here. This is a big rectangle here, and then here what comes in, and as soon as I go into this, it already says Delhi, from Delhi to Bangalore. I mean, I was a little surprised. Okay, why do I have to even travel to Delhi from Delhi to Bangalore? Maybe I've gone in to make my trip to book for some other travel destination, right? So here they did use the design principles, but they didn't use it properly. Using it properly or using it appropriately, if I could if I could use that word appropriate, this comes out of practice, right? You'll have to keep practicing, experimenting, and then go discuss it with people, because design never happens alone. Design only happens with a team of people, because it's all about ideas. You don't know what idea could come in from where, right? And now let's look at contrast. This is comparison with Clear Trip. A Clear Trip, you see that there are three different shapes. It's all rectangles right now. There's one here, there's one here, there's one here, and there's another rectangle on the header bar, right? So if you look at it, so I am sure as soon as you look at this website, everybody would first focus on this area because it is pretty big. It has a big title, and then it has some elements which actually will allow you to focus on this area. So these areas are other sections that you could navigate through. Maybe you could book trains or fly, or you could actually book hotels, which is also part of the travel. But these are secondary in nature, right? So the first thing is booking flights is what is done on ClearTrip majorly, right? So you might not want to look at this first, but you might want to look at this area first. So this is what. So this is the shape that has been used, the spacing that has been used, the contrast. If you look at it, they have a gray background, and here on this box they have a white background. And then look at this. Look at the balance. Look at the amazing balance that they have created. There's on the top left here they have search flights, big prominent label, and then they have the button here, which is also matching with the same label, right? It says search flights, which means this is this is search flights, which could actually just stand as title. It could be a label as well, and then this is a call to action, right? So this kind of balance. And over here, there's something like, okay, they also want to make money from other sources, so they have some deals, they have some offers, they have some advertisements, but they are very clear that, okay, this is not a primary mode of business. Booking flights, making people travel more is a primary source of business, right? So they just push the advertisements and deals and all the stuff to a smaller area on the right. You compare it here, there's a lot of super offers, which is on the prime area of the screen. Right? So these are all the stuff which comes in when you do not practice the fundamentals of design. So knowing the fundamentals of design is one part, and then putting those fundamentals into practice is the great thing. The more you put them into practice, the more you learn, the better your websites or your designs look. Right? So let's move on. So now that you have done your designs, imagine that you have done your designs, but what really matters to create very good designs, which not just look appealing, beautiful, but they also work very well. Which means if I just have to give it a little different flavor to it, right? So I could say falling in love is easy, but staying in love is pretty hard, right? So if you see something beautiful thing, a beautiful design or a beautiful object, you might just say, oh wow, this is so nice, this is so beautiful. But then would that beauty stay for longer? If you are using this product for maybe a couple of months or maybe for a couple of years, hey, it's the same thing. There's no more beauty there. Now, in that case, what happens is the experience part of it kicks in. If you're able to use a product to do your stuff quickly, or do your stuff very efficiently, or do your stuff easily, that is where that experience part of it comes in. Excuse me. So, the most important thing before you get started with the design is you'll have to gather very good requirements. And after you gather the requirements, you should ask, what are the goals of this design? Right? What is it that I'm trying to achieve out of this design? Excuse me, I just have some choking my throat. Can you get me a glass of water, please? Okay, yeah. So then, after you define your requirements, define the goals, right? And then the most important thing is knowing your users and understanding their needs. So until unless you know your users, right, it is pretty hard to design. It is really, trust me. I've learned it a very hard way, and now it is hardwired within me. So until unless you understand your design, your users, it is very difficult for you to design. Just give me a second. Right? So these are the two things: gather requirements, define goals, know your users, and understand their needs. Okay. So what is it? Why is it so important to define requirements, define goals, knowing your users? So, this is a quick tip here. Remember, we are designers and not users. So it is obviously that we get opinionated. I think this looks great. That I should never come into the design because I am not the user, right? So opinions come in. Okay, I think this looks great. I think we should move this here a little bit. We should move this here a little bit, or maybe we should change this alignment. We should put this into uh, a bigger shape or bigger area. But validate those. Having opinions, over a period of time, you could have opinions, but you always validate those opinions with your users or who's actually going to use your products, right? So I'm sorry. So one more thing is that everyone should remember is design is a medium, right? So everything that we interact with has a design, and whatever we are creating is not the end result. We're just creating a medium, right? So this medium helps our users to perform their task and achieve their goals. So that is why we say, okay, what are the requirements? What are their goals? What is it that they want to achieve? Uh, how is it that my design could help them do more, or help them become more productive, or help them increase their efficiency in their work? How is it that we can do to get that to get to that area? That is only possible. Trust me, that is only possible through gathering good requirements and defining good goals. So here, I would like to ask you one question. I'm sure everybody would have worked with the maze puzzles, right? So the puzzles that used to come in newspapers. So that was a maze puzzle, or maybe there's a rat at the end, and there's a brick of cheese, or maybe a segment of cheese in the middle. You'll have to drive through that whole of that maze. You have to do the path finding, and then reach to that cheese. You have to help the rat reach to the cheese, right? But how many of you have got that right in the first place? I did not get it right, and I'm sure many of you wouldn't have got it right in the first place. But if you have, so if you have done a little bit of reverse engineering, right? If you had started from the cheese and then come back to the rat, I am 100% sure, I'm 200% sure you would have found the right path in the first go, right? So that is what it says, define your goals. If you define your goals and work backwards, that is an amazing part to work towards your goals. Uh, so uh, I hope I was able to explain this. So this actually is a very important screen, because this is what will actually drive the whole of your design, right? Okay, so let's move forward a bit. So when I asked you, so I guess you are actually, all you guys are actually working on a new design project, or maybe a new design exercise, the design-a-thon that you guys are working on, and you guys have, I think you have an assignment or an exercise to build a platform, right? So imagine, why are you building this platform? What is your goal? So you'll have to define the goal first, right? Is your goal to win the prize? Is your goal to do something amazing? Is your goal to make people's life easy, right? So if you only design for winning a prize, you might, but I'm not sure. I cannot be very confident. But if you work towards making people's life easy, I am sure you have very high chances of winning the prize, or being nominated to be a very good designer, right? So in design, what it says is design. Uh, everything in design starts with people, and when you're designing for people, you'll have to start with empathy. Okay, empathy is understanding their needs, understanding what is it that they want to do, what is it that, as told you earlier, what is it that they achieve, what are their tasks that they do in daily lives. So when we look at people, so on your platform, what I guess is these are the set of people that uh, you should be helping, right? You have students, and maybe you yourselves are students, understand these guys pretty well, but if you are forming a group team where you're designing this, discuss with your team members. Okay, what is it? Okay, what is me as a student, and what is a group of students outside me? How do they look like? What are their needs? Right? And then you might even have a very good contact with your placement officers and your college SPOCs, where you help students look forward to their future internships and jobs. You'll have a very good interaction with your faculty members within your colleges, right? And then when you look for, and when you look at it from the other side of the game, is like you students, you have good access to your placement officers, you have good access to your faculty members, and the other side of the game is your future employers, right? What is it that your employers are looking for? What is it that you're looking for people that they're trying to hire for internships, or people that they're trying to hire for jobs, right? What is it that they would need to understand the information that they're trying to gather from your platform? How would they think that the information should be structured well? What is it that could make that the interface just helps me? Okay, I just needed some information. I just needed some the stuff that I was looking on this platform, and wow, it's just right up there. Right? So you'll have to talk to most of these people, and I'm sure most of you will not have access to the future employers, but your placement officers and your faculty members will actually give you very good insights to understand their mental models, like what are their requirements, what are they actually looking for, and then your jobs and internships, right? The whole of the crux is here. So the whole of the platform will actually host jobs and internships, and then all these four people will be will be working together to get students get their desired internships and jobs, right? So the empathy is very, very, very important. You'll have to empathize with people, understand what are their pain areas, what are their problems, what are their metrics for success, not the metrics for our success, what are their metrics for their success. So that is the difference between users and designers. So we always have to think it from users' perspective, right? So there is a little process if you have to do that, right? So that process is called design thinking. So as soon as we talk about design, we think that, okay, we'll have to do design. Doing design comes later, but we'll have to think design first. How does the thinking happen? So there's basically 5 different stages. So you'll have to empathize and define, which means that, okay, you'll have to empathize with people and define your goals and user requirements, right? So define the challenge. What is the challenge that you're currently taking up? Or what is the project that you're currently taking up? What is the assignment that you're taking up? Empathize with your users. Who are your users? Like on a previous screen, we saw future employers, students now, your faculty members, and your placement officers. These are the primary users for your platform. How is it that you can make their life easier? Empathize with them. Try to talk to them and see what is it that they would like to see on the platform. Then define the challenge. So define the challenge in the sense, okay, when you do the first iteration of your design, right? So you might want to show it to a couple of people, maybe within your own team members. Maybe you can even go and talk to your parents, your friends, your brothers and sisters. And fortunately, if your parents are teachers or employers or something like that, you have a bonus point there itself, right? Then you get a little more refinement around that area. You have an opportunity to reframe your design, or reframe the requirements a little bit more clearly. Then once you have that in place, once you think that, okay, this is the good set of requirements, these are a good set of goals, and I've tried to understand the users' goals better. If you're in a state where you have that confidence, then move on to the next state where you start ideating. This is where you start bring some early designs, some early sketches, some paper sketches, or some rough thoughts on how is it that you would like to structure the whole of the design. How would you want to structure the navigation? What is it that people would first see as soon as they log in? And again, what would students see when they log in, what would employers see when they log in, what would your placement officers and faculty members see when they log in, right? So these are 4 different user roles. So everybody should be able to see different things when they log in. It is not that, okay, everybody sees everything, right? Or you could say, I have only taken this specific context. Like I am only working towards a couple of user personas or the users that we talked earlier, right? Then you'll have to iterate those, evaluating newness. So you've done this paper sketch now, or you've done the early design right now. Just come back to it and look at it like after half an hour. You might have a new idea to it, right? And then you could improvise on that idea, right? And then the most critical part is creating a business model. So business model might be a very big term for you guys right now, but this is what it matters for your users and customers, right? So if you look at it from the platform perspective, how is it that people can make it available for a larger audience, right? How is it possible that they could make it even reproduce that same thing and make it available for multiple people, multiple colleges, multiple universities, if that matters, right? So if you can think in those lines, that will be really great, right? And then you do your prototyping and testing. Obviously, I'm not okay. Some of you might even go ahead and do a prototype. So you could go test your prototype. Just show it to people. Give them a little bit of a background. Okay, imagine that you are an employer or you are a student, and then you want to look for an internship program that matches your requirements or your interest. How would you go about it? Just simple questions. You can go ask your friends, you can go ask your parents, or you can go ask anybody around you. Do not spend a lot of time here, because there are chances that you might get lots of feedback and it might confuse you. So frame proper questions, and do not frame your questions in a way that it is closed-ended, right? So do not frame questions which will only give you answers like yes and no, right? Make your questions open-ended a little bit so that people will talk a little bit more, give you some better ideas, right? Okay. So here also, when you do prototyping and testing, you might get a little better ideas. So then what you do, you come back to your ideation phase, and then make tweaks to the design, change something that will make it better, and again you say, okay, let's go do a quick test around it, and then after you do your empathizing with users, defining your requirements, then ideating your design concepts, you iterate maybe 4 or 5 iterations. I'm not sure how much time you have, but 4 or 5 iterations should actually be pretty good, right? And if you have good practice, I think 3 iterations is max that you can get the product right? And then the last most important thing is pitching and storytelling. And I'm sure once you have done your designs, when you're actually showcasing your designs, you'll have to pitch your designs. You'll have to tell a story so that people can understand what was your thought and how is it that you would like to propose. So this is very, very, very important. Every design should have a story behind it, right? So try to build up some good story, and then storytelling is the important skill, a very important soft skill, if you would let me say that. So soft skill, that the storytelling soft skill is very important. So creating a pitch for your design and creating a story around your design is a very important step, right? So next is, once you have done that, right? So you could do this. Sorry, you could do this in your early stages, where you have to look broader. Which means that if you're designing a platform for students, employers, your faculty members, and your placement officers, is that the only focus, or can you expand a little bit more? Can you look a little bit broader? Okay, I know these are my users, but how is it that they're going to connect, right? What is it that they would like to see on the screens? How is it my design going to look like if they're actually viewing this on a mobile phone, right? How would it look like if if they have a pretty uh, low internet? I mean, a very weak internet connection. Okay, how would it look like if they did not have a good resolution monitors, right? And even in addition to that, when I say look broader in the terms like, okay, now we are focusing on this. Is there a way that we can expand to various other areas in the future, right? So that could be, if you can think broader, the story becomes so strong. Right? You can uh, you can define the story very well, right? So that is what it means. Like, look broader. So every look at the screen that looks like on you. Are you able to focus on a specific area, like what you saw on the Clear Trip website? I'm sorry, I don't know. I have a very bad choke in the throat today. So look broader, right? So look at expand your periphery. Now, what I mean by periphery is, if I can give you an example of a peripheral view, right? If you're looking straight, it is not exactly you're looking straight, right? Your eyes are able to cover 180 degrees around you. Same thing. So if you could look at something more, how this can be expanded, what are the different things that we could add, if there is if there's something that we can do better, right? And then look closer. When I say look closer, which means that, okay, once you have done your entire design, your screen is in front of you. Look at each individual elements. Look at each individual chunks of information that you have placed on your design. If there is something that could be changed, if there's something that could be made even more meaningful. So if you look at these chunks individually, that means that you're looking closer into each chunk of information on the screen. Refine those information. Okay, make it more accessible, make it more readable, make it more usable, right? So in that with that what we say is, if you can look broader, if you can look closer. Of course, all this didn't come very easy for me, and you must be thinking, oh, okay, this is all good talk, but how will we put this into practice? I understand that, right? So you so if you can put that into some extent, to some extent, if you can make it, it'll be amazing. And uh, right. With that, I think I would always come to the end. So say, look broader and look closer, uh, and then I would even like to propose a couple of design tools, right? So these are the list of tools that I have identified. Maybe you know better tools. You are the young guys, so you must be knowing even better tools. So if you can find better tools, and if you or if you have used some of these tools and you have a preference, feel free to use whatever tool that you have at hand. But this is my list of proposals. Adobe Xd is actually a free tool. You don't need any licenses. You don't need anything. But you just have to register yourself and on their Adobe cloud, download XD and get going. Figma is another amazing tool. I think you need a license to go edit or draw Figma, but you can still download a trial version of it. The trial version is absolutely free. You can download the trial version and use Figma for your designs, and you could even use Google Slides and PowerPoint, right? So you have enough space on your PowerPoint. You can actually use shapes, colors, text, lines, whatever. You could use PowerPoint. You could use Google Sheets, and this is another major thing. Excel, your Microsoft Excel and Google Sheets, right? So this is something like, how Shah Rukh Khan says in Chennai Express, don't underestimate the power of a common man. Similarly, don't underestimate spreadsheets. If you turn off the grid lines, these spreadsheets give you amazing unlimited canvas space, right? Trust me, unlimited canvas space. You can just draw shapes, and if you see all of these four designs, are done in spreadsheets. It's done in Microsoft Excel. Right. So these are the tools that I would like to recommend. And with that, I think I come to a closure. So yeah. So that's about it from my side. Let's open it up for questions or.
Thank you very much, Shyam.
Sure.
That was an amazing presentation that you made. I think the overall the way you walked us through is fantastic. You started off with what is design, then what are the design concepts, why design, and then so they were all what are the elements and what are the principles, and so that gave us an overview of what design is all about. And then you went into the actual hackathon that the students are going to be implementing now. And I think you almost gave a solution how those personas that you talked about and the empathy from those personas the students are supposed to look into, and in the way they do the gathering of the design and the requirements and device goals. And then subsequently how platforms would look like and the tools that could be used. One particular slide I really liked very much is how you compared the various designs, the Google, the Bing, and this is, I think, the fantastic slide. I'm sure the students, the audience will really understand how the concepts are implemented in these designs, and what's a good way, what's not so good way, and even a seemingly good design, how it can be improved. So lots of concepts that you gave us. Really thank you for that. And I'm sure our students now can do a very good submission in their hackathon, in the design-a-thon. So thanks a lot for that. Really appreciate it. And if you have any questions, audience, please feel free to ask.
I think there would be some questions. So first question is, will you explain the key difference between interactive and non-interactive computer graphics with a good example, and how students can design good projects in the field of computer vision?
Okay. So if I understand the question correctly, so they asked me that they are trying to explain the difference between interactive and non-interactive in computers, right?
Right.
So I am sure there is nothing called non-interactive in computers, because everything that you do in a computer is actually interactive.
Yeah.
Right. So the example that I can give you is even if you use your mouse to move your cursor, that is interaction.
Yeah.
Right? There is nothing called non-interactive in design for computers. What I could say, give you an example of non-interactive, is a poster that you can see on the wall, right, or a photo frame, which is not interactive. It is a passive thing. Or if you're watching a movie, right, that is still a passive thing. If you're watching something new, that is passive. They can only send you the message. You can only feel that, and you cannot interact back. So interaction is always, you at least need to have two or more things to interact with. So non-interactive is not possible in computers.
Yeah. The next question would be, apart from design, are the software requirement analysis and the UIML diagrams supposed to be designed? So I think Sesha would be the right person to answer this.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Apart from design, are the software requirement analysis and the UML design diagrams supposed to be designed?
It's totally up to you. It can be UML designs, or it can be, like I mentioned in the design guidelines. We are not giving the restrictions for the students, so that we are not trying to limit the imagination of the students. So like Shyam mentioned, your imagination is the only limitation.
Right.
So feel free to do what you think will be a good design in the format that you think is appropriate for you.
Correct.
So there are no restrictions.
So another doubt would be, Mr.
Just give me a
second. Shyam is going to answer.
So one other thing I would like to add to this is as Mr. Sesha said, you are free to do UML design, but understand, will your UML designs be understood by your audience? Right? Whoever is going to evaluate your designs, will they be able to understand your UML designs and make any sense out of it? So based on that, you could either use UML.
Right. Another question for you would be difference between design thinking and innovative design.
Innovative design.
Yeah, the difference between both design thinking and innovative design. So.
Okay.
So good. I think this is a pretty good question. So,
yes.
Design thinking and innovative design. So, the moment you talk, as I told you, the moment you talk about innovation, there is a design already in it. So,
right.
Until unless you design think it, you cannot innovate. Right. So, I am not sure there is a lot of difference in between. They are actually two. I wouldn't even say there are two parallels. They are very close to each other, and for sure they will converge at some point of time.
Right.
And the faster you can converge them, it is much better. So,
absolutely. So, I think design thinking, the overarching principle. Innovative design could be a subset of that, because, like I said earlier, you have to look at the purpose, right? If the innovative design's purpose is to be innovative, then it doesn't go too far, right? So I think the best innovative design is simplicity, right? It should be intuitive, and it should be very easy to navigate for the end user.
Right.
My one favorite example is email design, right? Email clients. Too complex. Email design today is very, very complex. I'm still looking for an innovative design in using emails.
Right.
Innovative emails, there is no innovation in email design today.
Totally.
So, design thinking is all about customer empathy. You think from others' perspective, you think from users' perspective. You might think, like Shyam just mentioned, there may be a great innovative design, but if people don't understand that, it's no use.
Correct. Totally. So next question would be, can a student design a website, host it, and submit the website link which meets the requirements of this hackathon?
If they can do it so quickly in the short time that they have, absolutely yes.
Okay, great. I think then we are at the last question. So, last question: are just wireframes without UI part appreciable?
Well, you could, but the wireframes, a simple wireframe can be just handwritten, right?
Right.
But I think it should be meaningful, right? It should be meaningful, and it will be much easier to understand if you do wireframes alone. That with a beautiful navigation, then yes, why not?
Right.
But make sure that your product, your design is meaningful. It serves the purpose,
right.
Of whatever the problem statement is. But I would let Shyam pick up the rest of it.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I just throw the thumbs up because I really like that question. Because somebody, when talking about wireframes, is something that they already have something in mind, which is actually taking a good shape action. So wireframes is definitely the first thing. But as Mr. Sesha said, right? So even in your wireframes, so the difference between wireframes and high-fidelity designs is wireframes will not contain any color or does not look very beautiful, but they look everything is in shape, right? Everything, all the elements are in shape. The positioning of those elements. No, there could be some things that there are some placeholder contents. You do not know what content goes into that space right now, but you could put a placeholder there. And now don't put placeholders for the entire page and give me that kind of stuff where it is just placeholders. So yeah, you could. I mean, there is no question of doubt that you cannot submit wireframe as long as it makes sense. As soon as the evaluators or your judges look at it, they can understand what you're trying to showcase there.
And also please remember this hackathon is going to be it's a relative evaluation, right? If one team submits only wireframes, and then another team submits the wireframes plus the navigation in the most colorful form with the right content and all that, certainly the other submission will get higher credits. So it's relative, right?
Yeah. So just to end the Q&A session, can both of you tell me which one is your favorite UI? Which product of yours is like with the favorite UI, where you can see all the design patterns or thinking which we all discussed here as well. So
I don't think I'm getting biased with design.
No, what's your favorite design? My favorite design, I think, is what Shyam showed, the Google. Simple, very simple. It may be confusing initially because if you don't know what you are going to be really using it for, if you don't know what you are using it for, it's confusing. But if you know what you want, the Google, I think, is my favorite.
correct.
But
Correct.
there may be somebody who doesn't know anything what want, right?
Correct.
So let's assume that's my persona. I don't know what I want.
Right.
But in that case, this design, the phone where the pinch in and out for zoom in and out, that's my favorite design.
Correct.
Because
Correct.
it's very intuitive, very colorful, and so both are two extremes. Simplest, and this is complex, but this is very innovative. This is also innovative, and this is for somebody who knows what they want. This is for somebody who doesn't know what they want.
Correct.
And both are my biggest favorites in that spectrum.
Right.
Right. So, if you ask me my favorite design, I would just say the Apple's website.
Oh yeah,
Right.
totally.
Right. So if you go to Apple's website, I mean, see if you if you go to the Apple's website, it clearly, I mean, the moment you look at it itself is such an amazing thing. I mean, it's a delight, right? So yeah, that's the thing that I would like to say. And one other point to this question I would like to add is look at people who, as Mr. Sai shared, look at people who do not understand the design. Right? Okay, if we know some elements, and for now we are experiencing design everywhere, right? So people will understand the design everywhere. But imagine children who are like in the kindergarten, right? If you ask them design, they will not know. But if you give them a mobile phone, for sure they'll use the mobile phone for their purpose. Right? They will turn on their camera. If you give them a game, right? If not a complex game, if some simple game, and of course every game and every product comes with user manuals, right? So if you give the mobile phone with the game to the children, I am 100% sure they do not understand what it is written. What is written on the screens. If they can read it, they might. I mean, some kindergarten students can be able to read it, but I am pretty sure that many of them will not be able to understand what that means. But they'll still be able to play the game amazingly.
Right.
So that is the beauty of design.
Very well said. This conversation reminds me, it's a great question, by the way, whoever asked that question. This reminds me of a conversation between Steve Jobs and an interviewer. This back in the 90s, I guess. No, not 90s, maybe early 2000s. So the interviewer asked Steve Jobs this question. What do you think of Microsoft? Apple is so innovative, so successful and all that. And Microsoft is also equally successful. And great products. Both have great products. So somebody asked, so the interviewer asked Steve Jobs, what do you think of Microsoft? So Steve Jobs said, Microsoft is a money-making machine, great products, lots of users, 90% of the people in the world use them, but they don't have taste. So, what it means is that they are very functional, great, everything works, right? Good. So they have good design thinking, but they don't have taste. What it means is that aesthetically they are not pleasing. Someone said, I don't know, Shakespeare or somebody, a thing of beauty is a joy forever, right? So Apple products, you will see clearly that beauty, innovation. Somebody asked design thinking versus innovative design, something like that, right? That could be one example of the difference. Apple products, of course, I'm not biased.
Yeah.
There are great products from Microsoft as well. So Apple products, I think, are an example of innovative designs. Microsoft products are probably a good example of design thinking. Functional, they're all functional. It serves the purpose. But the beauty, the taste, the aesthetic sense, that makes them different. That separates them apart.
Totally.
Any other questions?
So I guess that is all. I think someone has commented that it's nearly impossible to show the full product within 2 minutes. So
Within 2 minutes?
Yeah, so they have asked, is video and all exported artboards are enough for submitting?
I didn't understand. What is enough for
is the video and all exported artboards are enough for submitting?
No, we are not expecting any video. We just screenshots are good enough.
Okay, great. Yeah. So I think that solves the problem, and I think we should sign off now. And I think it was a very good webinar and very informative one. Even if people have not seen it on the live session, they can still see it later. So we would share the link with all the college representatives and the students as well. So thank you everyone. Thank you Shyam very much to give your time here for our students and helping them with the design thinking process and the whole ideation kind of thing. Thank you Mr. Sai Shyam as well for joining us. I think we should end the live now, and that would be it from my end. If
Thank you so much, Rajat. Thank you so much, Shyam. Really appreciate both of you. Rajat, thanks for being a great host and helping us with the questions, and really appreciate your time. And Shyam, once again, kudos to you. This is one of the best presentations I've ever seen in terms of design. Really thankful to you to have educated our students.
Definitely.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Sai Shyam. Thank you so much, Rajat.
Bye-bye.
And all the folks, wish you all the very best. All the very best with the designs.